This is Lewis here with Status Coup on the ground in East Palestine. I'm here with Christina Seisloff. We've spoken with her before, and we're standing in front of Leslie Run, which is right behind us here. This is between East Palestine and Negley. Christina, Dr. Try, several others have been posting videos recently of contamination. I mean, it's August now. Contamination 6 months after the derailment, still present here in Leslie Run. Christina's been kind enough to show us around and show us what there is here. So let's go check it out. Yeah, so as Christina flips some of these rocks, we're just looking for some of the same kind of like colorful chemical color that we saw really prevalent back in February and March, but that's still lingering in some places here, still even now. We'll see. Sometimes it takes a second for it to pop up.
There it is.
Yep, we got some popping up in here and there.
I felt it suction to the bottom. Already.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Oh boy, look at that.
There you go. You can see the rainbow color very prevalent now. Yeah, John, this is a lot now.
Oh my.
It's hard. You got to make sure you get it in the right light, but when you get it in the right light, oh my goodness. 6 months later, more than 6 months later.
Let's see the stick. I'll try to sew it up inside with my shoe. Just pours out.
Yeah, this is
It's really bad.
So Lewis here with Status Coup. We're on our 4th on-the-ground reporting trip here in East Palestine. You can learn how to support Status Coup to continue to make sure these trips are possible by going to statuscoup.com/join to help us out there. We were just out in the creek here with Christina Seisloff. Christina, we met on our last trip here. You and several other residents have been out investigating these creeks now for at least the last couple weeks, maybe months at this point. And you had kind of still been seeing some of these chemicals, I guess. Do you want to talk about what brought you out to kind of continue looking for this sort of stuff and what you've been finding?
I started to come down the creeks because I was just curious. Like, I kept hearing that a lot of fish were dying or had been dead. And so I came down to see for myself. And then once I got down here, I saw all the dead fish in the creek, and then I saw people starting to poke, and then this rainbow would pop out like a firework. So I came down here to see again for myself about the rainbow colors, and then the EPA kept telling us that the creeks were fine, and there was a fish kill last Monday. And
just for folks, last Monday, we're talking first week of August at this point. 6 months later, a fish kill. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I know that those creeks aren't clean, because I was down here for the 6-month anniversary and checked, and like on the 3rd, and then I was here on the 7th, and I knew that they weren't clean.
Right.
And so me and some other people came down, and we were really furious over the article saying that things were fine. And when we came down, we actually saw kids playing in the creek, and went down and recorded a bunch of videos of the creeks not being clean.
Right. And at this point, so the EPA has admitted that the creeks are not, that they're not 100% clean. It was surprising to me, obviously, like Sulphur Run, it's pretty clear that one has been contaminated this whole time. That's the one that kind of runs right through town and kind of starts right near where the derailment actually occurred. This, though, is Leslie Run. Sulphur Run runs all the way through town and then splits into joining Leslie Run here. We're partway down the road to Negley, and we're still seeing this sort of stuff here. Has the EPA released any sort of plan as to what they're going to do about this?
Not that we're aware of yet. They keep saying that it's coming, and they've been saying that for maybe more than a month now, that they were going to start cleaning the creeks, or they had a creek plan, but then they have to throw the creek plan back to Norfolk Southern, and then they have to wait for it to come back to them. If Norfolk Southern doesn't like something about it, then they have to do the plan again and send it back to Norfolk. And we were actually told by one of the members of the EPA that if they didn't have to do this back and forth, the creeks would have been clean in March.
Right. So because of the bureaucracy of the EPA and Norfolk Southern needing to bounce this back and forth, basically this creek that runs right through this town is just contaminated because of bureaucracy for no reason, and there's not even a clear plan at this point.
No.
Yeah. And to kind of add on top of this, there's basically one sign down here that says, and it's in one sign on the side of this that says, "Keep out, testing in progress." It does not say keep out, this stream is contaminated with butyl acrylate, among other things. It says keep out, testing in progress. And this trail runs along this creek for a couple miles, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
And so you end up seeing last week, you mentioned a couple kids playing in this creek, not knowing. I guess, what did they have any idea, or how did that kind of happen?
We didn't talk to them, but I mean, at this point, I would assume that you should know to stay out of the creeks, but at the same time, like the sign that's down there is far away from where these kids were going in the creek. It's easy to miss walking down there if your goal was to get to that spot. So I think that, like, the kids, you just look at the creek and it looks clean. But when you step barefoot into the creek, you're sticking your foot in chemicals that you don't even know they're there.
Right, and as we saw, I mean, we can talk a little bit now about like what we just kind of saw, but as you flip some of these rocks over, as you dig in a little bit deeper, you start to see what is really there. I guess, can we talk a little bit about what we just kind of saw today?
Some of the stuff, like when you stir up like the small rocks, it's more like a white, I guess a lot of people compare it to white snot that's going down. But then once you start turning over the bigger rocks, and there's some huge rocks down there, it's like this rainbow colored sheen that comes up, and it just like, it swirls around, and then it will come, like it'll go down the creek, and then sometimes you'll see it like burst out, and it's just a mess.
And when y'all were out here last week, you mentioned you were out here with a couple other residents. Obviously everyone's kind of had their own instances of getting sick, spending time near the creek, myself included. On one of the last trips I was here, it was near one of the creeks, and bad headache, nauseous for a couple hours after the fact. Were folks, after the last time you were out here, experiencing any symptoms? Have you experienced symptoms doing this sort of stuff?
The other people I was with and myself, we all ended up with diarrhea. We all ended up with like stomach pains, then muscle aches. A couple of us had rashes, and like on our necks, on our stomachs. I ended up with a small sore on the back of my leg. Migraine I had later that night, and really like the next morning, even as soon as I got up out of bed, it was like the room was spinning, and it kind of felt like you were walking in a dream.
No, it's outrageous that here we are 6 months later. It's not a month later, it's not 2 months later, 6 months later, these creeks are still in this sort of shape. Christina, thank you so much for showing us around this. we'll talk more about some of the other experiences you've had not standing out here in the rain. But I appreciate you taking the time again and joining us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.